All right, we're recording, and now I'm gonna do a live on Facebook. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Okay. I don't want to mispronounce your name. How do you pronounce it?
Yamile.
Yamile. Okay. I put the soul igniter.
Yes.
There we go. So what have you been reading that you told me you were reading?
Right now I'm reading Stealing Fire.
Mm.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, I think it's another level. And it's not even levels anymore, like these rocks that are behind my head. It's not a level like I need to go to this level and stuff like that. I don't know. Did you ever go to Date with Destiny?
Nope, I haven't.
Okay. So Date with Destiny talks about the spirituality and like the different levels, right? And a lot of people want to be at the last level. Like, of course, I'm the holiest of holies, or
Yeah.
I'm doing what the work of the Lord is, or whatever it is. And I believe that the more that I read, the more that I tap into my own powers, I realize that it's not a level because I've achieved, but it's more a level because it exists. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. We're live, and so I want to yep. Now we're live. So I'm super excited about this conversation, everyone. I'm here with Yamile, the Soul Igniter, and I'm super excited because it's and we will probably go into it in the conversation, but we kind of like crossed paths during our awakening, and it was amazing. Thank you for being here, Yamile. I know that we've been. I know it's going to be a good conversation because it timed itself. We've kind of like been rescheduling, right? So I know it's the right moment. Whoever watches it live, this was the moment it was meant to be watched live. So thank you. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for being here. And one of the first things that we do here is kind of like getting the ego out of the way, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and about what you're working on, or any projects that you're doing, anything that you'd like to share with us.
I love it that you said to get the ego out of the way. One of the best ways that I know how to get my ego or my frontal cortex or my Yamile out of the way is to be able to take a deep breath. And when I take a deep breath, I'm in the nowness. And so would you mind, let's take a deep breath together?
I love it. I love it.
Okay. And so when the deep breaths that I do a 7 count in, hold it for 7, and release at 7. And I do that for 3 times. So if we do that, because I love, Rafael, that you want to do that, because truly and honestly, it is a time for us to be able to share what we've been doing, but also from the heart, right? Not from the mind that sometimes like, oh no, but it should be like this, it should be like that. So let's take a deep breath, and we go in. And let's release all the stuff from today, all the movements, and let's breathe in again. And one last time. This is awesome.
Wow. Love that.
Yeah. It's I believe, I feel now that it's in the nowness or the present moment that is what gets me out of like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Who is this? I mean, yesterday I had for like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, just a rough time with one of my clients. And so this is who I am. So Yamile McBride created a Soul Igniter because I believe that when I ignite souls, it's just the mirror image of who we all are. We're all connected. And so Soul Igniter, I do it in little videos. They could be fun with my children, or they could just be with the clients that I work with. And so just having these little videos out there, little thoughts around the world. I used to be a teacher for 18 years. For 2 years and a half, I was an assistant principal at a school in North Carolina. It was one of the lowest performing schools in North Carolina. When I went in it, I was very excited. I don't know about you, Rafael, but my mother was like, oh, please, get your degree, do something, be a lawyer, be a doctor or something like that. And I ended up being a teacher. And so I loved it. I love teaching. Yeah, I love teaching. I grew up in that was the only constant. So I went to 27 different schools up until I graduated high school. I used to live in foster homes. I used to live in shelters because of the abuse and things that was happening in my house. And so the only constant or consistent thing was school. Like every single school, I don't care if I was in Massachusetts or in Florida or in New Jersey, wherever I was, they always had lunch. They always had a teacher. It was always like a constant thing that was going on. So because of that, I'm blessed for the school systems, right? Because it made me aware that there could be a present moment. There could be a nowness. And so I went and I finally made it. I'm an assistant principal. I got my master's degree, right? I've arrived. I'm the best. Not. I got to the point that I was working 80-hour weeks. And I was working because I was always putting out fires. Rather than going inside, I didn't know what that meant. When people would tell me, calmadita, calm down, slow down, take a breath, I'd be like, what are you talking about? And I thought we had to do. And in reality, what I was doing was kind of doo-dooing all over my life. And so it wasn't until 2.5 years after I started as an assistant principal, because we had a lot of gangs, we had a lot of violence, a lot of abuse, a lot of stuff going on in the school. 2 sisters from New Jersey, where I was born, they came down to the school. When they came to the school, because I did special education, I realized that something was not right. But in special education, there's a lot of things to protect the students and the teachers. But we had to wait for 6 to 12 weeks. And I told them, I said, somebody's going to get hurt. They keep bringing drugs in. They keep like running around. They keep harassing other kids. They were having sex in the bathrooms. I mean, it was just it was bringing me back to the stuff that I remembered when I was growing up. So one day, one of the girls had brought in drugs and I told her, listen, I'm just going to take them away. Everything's going to be okay. No screaming. And she kicked me and I fell down. I fell down and I thought I was having, after I figured out the situation, what was happening, I thought I was having a heart attack. I thought I was physically dying because a nerve in my back hurt me on my arm. And so I went into the hospital and everything. And what I realized then is that sometimes things happen, COVIDs happen, so that we can go back into the quietness of ourselves, so that we can find the answers. And so what I did is I actually left the school system less than a year later, after I went to an amazing personal development event. And from there, I wrote a book. I started a nonprofit for Latinas where we empower Hispanic women to collaborate with all women to mentor this and the next generation. And then I also started a company with my husband where we do mindfulness and meditation. And a lot of it, the only reason I'm doing it is because I had to do it first. The only reason I'm teaching it is because I had to learn and be quiet. And so I was diagnosed at 30 years old with ADHD. And so people with ADHD, you can't sit quiet. And this is the only time that I find the answers and the respite for life. So yeah, that's who I am. That's what I do.
Wow, you're not gonna believe this. Last time that we spoke, we were talking about what we were going through, but we have so much in common. I went to over 10, probably 14 schools before I graduated high school, and I ended up just getting a GED. I didn't even have a graduation because I just didn't want to go to another school. It was like, and when I was in court, for my separation, with my daughter's mother, I that's when I got diagnosed with ADD, and I didn't know it, and that's I just kind of and I was like 20 something, and because back then it wasn't ADD, there was no ADD or anything like that. It was just like, get your act together, right? So there's so much in common, and you have to be a special kind of person to be a teacher. My mom was a teacher she still is. She's retired, but she's for over 30 years, and I could see that in I grew up with that. I could see, I saw all the work that she and everything that she went through with inner city kids, and actually going to their houses sometimes. And so, man, so yeah, definitely. I love that. So that the mindfulness business that you started with your husband, what exactly do you do with?
So
That's
we
Somos,
have,
right?
yeah, it's McBride Somos. And and simply what we do is we call it teaching. Some people call it coaching, and really what it is just we're teaching different mindfulness techniques in order to be able to tap into flow, in order to be able to ignite that presence that's inside. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, but what am I supposed to do? Can't I just take an assessment and be this or be that? And a lot of times the reason why we think we're confused as to what we're supposed to do is only because we are not honoring ourselves. A lot of times, like for instance, I'm 43 years old. I can't even believe I'm 43. Wow. Anyway, I'm 43 years old, and my two of my oldest daughters are graduating this year, and I'm like, by this time I should have at this, and I should have done this, and I should have done this. And so it's not that we're perfect at all, right? But there is something inside that wants to shout out and said, honey, you're good. You're good. Because even in the mistakes, even in the pain, even in whatever it is, you're going through it is going to be able to help you grow through it and go to the next level. So a lot of times, right now I have a class in Peru with Hispanas, and it's called Mujeres y Metafísica. And it's just simply, I say it's metaphysica, which is metaphysics, but it's really more like understanding that we are, and it depends on who's hearing this, but we are that person that we're looking for, the answer, the gods that we're looking for. Forgive me, those are the dogs.
Oh, you're fine. Don't worry about that. we had a podcast. We had one of the podcast interviews, and her dog actually got on her lap, and she was actually on the show. So
okay. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, even that, so we have two little Chihuahuas, and I'll be honest with you, I never would have thought I would have had a Chihuahua, because growing up, I grew up with a lot of Puerto Ricans, a lot of Colombians, and they would have these cute little Chihuahuas, and they were so mean. And so they would bark and be crazy. And Christmas Eve, and this is when you're just allowing and flow. Christmas Eve of this year, we were like, what would be a really good present for our 6-year-old? What would be so nice? So we went into Walmart to get dog food, and a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in a long time said, I've got to get rid of my puppies. Give me, baby. I've got to get rid of my puppies. And I was like, no way. Are you kidding me? And so she's not a puppy. This is Bucky. You can barely
I can see her. Now I can see her. Now we can see her because there we can see her because of the background. Yeah. Now there we go.
Yes. Okay. So this is Baquita. So and Baquita came because this is one of two of the puppies. And Baquita. So Baquita. And then we have I don't know if you remember Quiero Taco Bell.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
Quiero Taco Bell. And so that is even something like amazing. Like I would have never thought that I would have had something. When we say like, no, I'm not gonna have something. No, that's not gonna happen to me. I'm not gonna have a stepfather for my kids. I'm not gonna be a stepmother, you know, because I grew up in that. It's like, why are we fighting something? Is it because we still need to learn something from it? Is it because we need to have peace in it? What do you think?
Yeah, that's I feel like and you know, I used to be like that. I used to be like that all the time, right? I used to be before all this awakening. I've been meditating for I think over 20 years, and it was just because it was the only way that I could kind of like stop that short fuse that I had. I'm Puerto Rican, right? So like I had a short fuse, right? And anything would just kind of like send me off. Not on a point where, you know, yes, kind of like violence, but not violence and like attacking, you know, people or anything like that. Just it would just get me, you know, like really, I don't know how to explain it, but
I would call it like
alterado, right? Yeah. So and you know, all my life was like I got to get to this point. You know, I got to goals. You know, I've always been in sales and marketing, and it was always like life goals and company goals, and like when I had my business goals, and it was like, and everywhere I was always, and I wanted everything to be exactly how it should be, like what you're talking about. And I feel, you know, after this, after the awakening and everything, and now that, you know, I kind of like went through like that crazy process that I went through in the beginning. Now I feel what you're saying is, you know, my take on what you asked me was, we sometimes say, and this happens more in Spanish, I think, than in English, but it's like, que sea lo que Dios quiera, right? Like, let it be whatever God wants it to be. But then we're like, let it be how God wants it to be, as long as it's how I want it to be, right?
Yeah, of course.
it's like, yeah, que sea lo que Dios quiera, siempre y cuando sea, you know, this and this and this and this, right? and that's we're not like you, like I loved how this conversation began, because, you know, that breathing, right, that getting in that present moment. We're not when we're fighting that present moment, we're not actually experiencing it. We're not letting life experience itself through, you know, consciousness experience itself through us, right? That oneness, you know, that connectedness that we have. And you know, we're always thinking about where we should be, or what should have happened, or, you know, what's going to happen, and not, like you said, like in this COVID, I think a lot of people, I don't think I would have been able to well, I mean, I did kind of like went through it, but so many people with so much, and it's completely understandable, so much uncertainty, right? That this has created, that a lot of people, we've noticed that, wait, we weren't living in the present moment, right? Like the things that we thought, when I've noticed in different interviews, when a lot of people, when they've, you know, they've had to slow down, no many flights, no, you know, not flying all the time, or not traveling all the time, or working all the time, or, you know, all this stuff that we do, right? And that occupies our space, and having to get back to it and understand, wait, this is, you know, what's more important, family, or what's more important, like my mental health, right? Or
Yeah, exactly.
so I feel,
And it,
yeah.
oh, no, I was gonna say what you're talking about is actually, so I'm writing my next book, and
Oh, nice.
one of the chapters in it is talking about process versus product. So we live in a society that everything is product, right? Like, so give me the end result. Give me in sales and marketing, give me the numbers. Give me how it's supposed to be at the end, right? Like, how much is that going to cost me? I'm going to get a burger. How much is that going to cost me? That's the end result. Rather than the process of enjoying the burger, the process of the pain of marketing, or not pain in a bad way. I think pain now is like savor happenings intentionally for triumph. Savoring, like, because you have children, so you know what contractions are. So when we're in a contraction, there's life gonna be born, and it hurts like heck, you know, when you're about to give birth to this baby. And so even if you go and get an epidural or whatever it is that you do to bring this life through, there has to be a process that goes through. And so that chapter is actually going to be talking about how we could save ourselves from product. Give me the end result. End of grade testing for schools. Oh, you got an A in this class. But how did the person feel? How did they act? What did they work on? You know what I'm saying? Like, all that, we forgot about it because we're so product driven. And so, like, que sea lo que Dios quiera, pero que tenga estos beneficios para mí. Like, let it be what God wants, but it has to have these benefits.
Yeah.
And why not? What if the pain or the suffering or the things that we think are not supposed to happen, what if it was supposed to happen? And while it's happening in the caca or the worrying of it, what if while we're in it, we could just take a deep breath and say, okay, what am I supposed to learn here? Who am I supposed to be talking to? What can I do to make this process be something beautiful, even if we think in our mind it's not? And so what was so awesome is, like, the reason why I even connected to you is that you were being vulnerable. Like, you told the world in a video, like, I went through a crazy mess. And I was literally in it. You had already gone through it. I was in it. I thought I was pregnant at 42. I thought, I thought all these things, like, no, I've got cancer, me estoy muriendo. Like, what in the world is happening? And it was because I was allowing that stuff. Like, I was questioning it. Okay, where is this pain coming from? What am I thinking about right this moment that is causing me so much strife? And so I think the day that you told me about because I was like, I need to know. You just described what I've been through. Like, you told me about going into the mountain, and I want to say in Arizona, and there was a vortex. Like, tell me, why would you even go there? Like, that's so crazy. First of all, you're Puerto Rican and you don't go into the mountains. You go to the city, you know?
Yeah.
Why? What was that pull?
Well, it was crazy because I had never even heard of Sedona, Arizona, or I never even heard of what a vortex is or anything like that. To me, that was all like, people started talking about energy, and I would, like, before my awakening, I would hear people talking about energy, and I would be like, okay, so, it got, because I never, there was never any room for me to experience anything that in the present moment. It was always either anxiety of the future or looking back at the past, right? And depression of the past. And it was, I was never actually in it. And I think more than many people, I think that's why this happened to me, because it's not something that we do, right? Or we create necessarily, but it just happens. And it just, one day, I remember after my meditation, everything just went white. And there was a sound. You had a back problem, so you might understand what this is, because I've had back problems, since I was like 20, and for like a year and a half, almost 2 years, I couldn't actually sit upwards or stand upwards. I was kind of like, but if you have like a nerve, like when you feel that nerve, it's like you can't even move your finger because like your whole body hurts, and it's kind of like a sound. I describe it like that it hurts so much that there's like a sound, right? And so everything went white, and I just heard that. It was just like, and I was just feeling, I guess, I was feeling a bunch of stuff coming out, and I thought I was gonna die. Honestly, I stayed for like 3.5 hours, just laying in my bed. I couldn't move, and I remember just not feeling. It was more of like the awareness that I was letting a lot of shit go, right? But it was more like an awareness. There wasn't like any body or thinking or anything. I just remember kind of like being aware of, okay, this is how I die, right? I'm dying, but it was just I'm not gonna take this with me wherever I'm gonna go. All this hurt, I'm just gonna let it go here, and then I'll die. That was kind of like the process, right? I was like, after everything just let's go, and then I'll die. And that was the awakening. And then it was a pretty long process after everything after I woke up from those 3.5 hours, my whole perception of life just changed. It was like 360. Holy shit, I was seeing things different. I was smelling things different. I remember our conversation, you were like, this is why you were pregnant, right? And it's like smelling things and different, like seeing things different and like color. It was crazy. But I ignored it because I thought I was going crazy. I was like, what the fuck? Like this isn't, and I remember I was journaling. Right after that, I started journaling, and a cousin of mine who was very spiritual, and he was actually on this podcast. It was the first interview. He called me, and I told him, "You're not gonna believe what just happened." And I explained everything to him, and he was happy. He was kind of like smiling. He's like, "Oh," but he told me that it was called the Kundalini awakening, and I never heard of that word. And when I went online, to check it, and when I started like doing research, I was like, fuck no, this is not what I signed up for, right?
Yeah.
Like and that's when I got scared. So I just ignored it for a couple of months, maybe like 6 months. But what I was going to say is it got to a point where I had to surrender. And when I finally surrendered, that's when I kind of like got into that flow. And in I was in a mastermind, and in one of those calls, I was kind of like explaining, it was a very close group. So I was able to talk to them about it, because at that point I really didn't know who to talk to about it. And somebody said, the person that was leading the mastermind, they told me, they were like, oh, Sedona, Arizona, you have to go to Sedona, a vortex with energy. And I was like, I never heard of Sedona. And I was working, I had a job, but it got to a point before my surrender, it got to a point where I couldn't work. I had to take a leave of absence, because I just couldn't deal with it. So my doctor told me I was dying. He was like, this is what happens to people that are going through. He was always telling me like to take some time off, and I never took any time off. Never. Like even Sundays, it was always working, right? So I was like, that's not going to happen. And it ended up that I had to take some time off. It started with a week, and then it got into, I started feeling a little bit better. So I got into 2 weeks, and I ended up being almost 4 months without going back to work. Wow. Yeah. And so, but my doctor was the one that told me that. And he said that, he was like, I think you just need to go somewhere where you can connect with God. And that kind of like hit me, because when your doctor tells you to connect with God, I'm like, oh shit, and so he said Grand Canyon or Niagara Falls. I grew up in Massachusetts, which is something actually I wanted to ask you, that you said that you lived in Massachusetts too?
Yes, in Lowell.
In Lowell? Okay.
Lowell, Lawrence, and Amherst.
Okay, Amherst. Okay. I grew up in Westfield, Massachusetts, by Springfield.
Yes. By Holyoke?
Yeah. Like Westfield is like 20 minutes from Holyoke.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And
And
you know,
so,
it's the way
yeah,
you just brought that up. Like, this is what I'm talking about, how this is when I believe about oneness. I believe about, like, you know, the more you ask questions, that's why I ask questions in that, right? Like, what doctor, unless it's a spiritualist, what doctor is going to say, go find Jesus or God, or, you know, just go do that? And so, you know, then I saw you randomly on a video, and just the connections, the oneness, the beauty.
it is, right? And I feel like we get, and right now this conversation is like, you can't see it, right? But like my body's just like flowing with energy, because it's just, you can feel that oneness, you know, that connectedness that we've had since we've met, right? And I mean, we've never actually physically met, but and we can still find a more connectedness, right, of where we've been and what we've gone through, and how.
And do you know how you just said that? That was the other reason that it made me feel, when I was going through that, when I talked to you, that I was not alone. Because how is it that Rafael, from wherever you were at, all of a sudden, with my pain, that I was in pain, hear you, and I'm like, connection, right? And then you keep asking questions, you keep tapping in. So this is for the people that are listening right now. Like, we think we're crazy, and we might very well be crazy, whatever it is. But if you keep on asking, and if you keep on just looking and searching and knowing that your back is covered, that you are going to be okay, there's going to be a Rafael in your life, a Yamile in your life, a Juanita in your life, whoever, a doctor in your life, to lead you that. So then what happened? So then you go
So,
there.
so she told me about Sedona, right? So I was telling them that my doctor told me to witness something majestic, or like connect with God. And that's when she told me about Sedona. And I looked into it after the call, and I saw the vortex, and I started researching, and I'm like, oh, like, holy shit, like this is, all this is happening. And that's when I was first starting to kind of like surrender through the process. And it helped so much doing the research, that, you know, when you research a place like Sedona, Arizona, when there are like 4 different vortex. So it's, for anybody that hasn't heard of it, like a vortex, there's these places on Earth that just, there's more energy there, right? And so I started reading. I'm like, I'm not alone in this. If I'm going crazy, there's a lot of us that are going crazy too. You know, I was like, because I thought the last 6 months from that, I thought I was going crazy because of the way my whole perception of life changed. But I was ignoring it. I didn't want to surrender to it. I was trying to keep on living back how I used to live. And so I was more in flow, right? After I was able to do that surrendering, and I was more in the present moment, especially since I wasn't working, and everything just started to scream Arizona, Sedona, Arizona. I was like crazy, Yamile. It got to a point where, you know, I would see it everywhere, and like somebody would be talking about it out of nowhere. I started saying, I'm thinking to people that I knew, I'm thinking of going to Sedona, Arizona, and everybody's like, oh yeah, it's a great place. I've been there. Like, so many people that I knew had been there, and I'm like, how the hell did I never hear about this place if so many people that I know have been there? And there was one moment where I was just, it got to a point where I remember I was talking to my cousin. And it was like God telling me, what else do I need to do for you to be able to hear me? Right? It was something like that, because I was pumping gas with my father. You know, we were out, and I stopped at a gas station. I'm pumping gas, and you won't believe it, but the guy pumping gas in the car next to us had a T-shirt that said, "Go to Arizona," and I was like, what the fuck? Or like, this Arizona or something like that, the T-shirt, and I was like, this is just too much, you know. And so I still wasn't thinking of going, because because I wasn't working. I was supposed to have, you know, I do have disability insurance and all that, but it hadn't kicked in. And the money that I had, it was like, it got to a point where it was very uncertain if I was still going to be able to pay rent. because I ended up not actually getting paid for those almost 4 months until I got back. Yeah. And so I was thinking of maybe I shouldn't go, I have my responsibilities and everything. And then just at that point, just one time I was just, it felt like God was just telling me everywhere, like go. And so I just rented a car and took off on a road trip, from San Antonio. I went up to Dallas. I visited my brother and my mom, because my brother, this is so crazy that I went to Arizona. I didn't even pack my hiking boots. like it was just like I packed whatever and I went. And then my brother, and I told my brother, and he's like, "What, are you crazy? Like you don't have anything. Like you don't have anything. Like what are you doing?" And he, I realized, holy shit, yeah, I don't have anything. So I went over there and I got some like camping gear and some stuff from him. And then I just went all the way back to Arizona, and it was amazing. It was, I really did feel, I went to all the vortexes, and yeah, and I feel like nothing really happened there, kind of like big there. I just, kind of like felt with nature. I feel like, I remember that when we spoke, I remember watching videos, because you were doing videos too, about your process, and you were always outside, right? And grounding, and it's like we kind of like realize we're part of nature, right? Before, I don't know about you, like what with me before, I wouldn't even look up at the sky sometimes. It's like all in my head. And I remember seeing your videos. I used to love them because you were out in nature. You're like, with the barefoot and just like feeling the earth. And I'm like, it was just, it's great exercise. But that's how I ended up in Sedona. It was just following the signs. And when I came back, when I was driving back from it, I actually think it helped me align to let that flow actually go, get through to let the energy flow. Because one of the most beautiful experiences I've had was when I was driving back down from Dallas to San Antonio. And I probably shouldn't have been driving because it was just, I started doing breath work, and I felt like everything was just pure white light, and I could only see, or the only thing that was important was, well, because I was driving, was in front of me, and like there were no distractions. But that whole trip was just like I felt like I was floating the whole 5.5 hours, and I think that happened because of Sedona, of the alignment. But that's how I got there. Just like what you were saying, just kind of like listening, right? Listening to God, soul, I don't know, source, whatever, people that are listening, whatever they call it, consciousness.
Yeah. And that's it. It's funny. So I'm reading out a bunch of studies, a study with John Hopkins talking about these type of experiences, because these are not experiences that only you and I, and we haven't even taken anything, and we've had these experiences. Exactly. Because these experiences are there for anyone, like intuition, we all have it, that gut feeling. And so it's not that I'm a soul igniter because I'm the soul igniter. I'm a soul igniter because I ignite souls to light their asses up so that they can start questioning, wait, I want that power, or I want that peace, I want that joy, I want that light. Like the talk that you were saying when you were driving for those 5 hours, and you felt like you were almost like enlightened, like this spiritual awakening, this like bliss, right? Sometimes when I do videos, I don't even know who's talking. Like I literally, it almost feels, if anybody out there or you have ever experienced like a diabetic thing, when they say like you see lights or something, I'm tested, I don't have any diabetes or nothing, but like when you're in your zone, when you're in flow, when you know you're doing the work that you came here to do, you are not doing it. There's no more doing. And the Tao talks about that. It's not in the doing, it's in the being. And we are the beings that are here to enlighten ourselves so that other people could say, oh, it's okay. It's okay to let go and allow.
I love that. I love that. I love how you and like you said before, you teach it because you've gone through it. You've done the work, right? You've gone through it. You've done the work. You've been there, and it's I feel like there's some of us, like this is happening right now, this whole podcast and everything. And I have like a spiritual mastermind and this whole Clear This Mechanism program. This just kind of like, I always say, it just created itself through me. It didn't really, it's not like I channeled it or something, but it created itself through me, because just that need for me to try to like help people that are going through it to know that they're not alone, right? Because it's, you think you go crazy when you think you're alone, and it's the same thing that you're doing. You're helping them. It's like the process took you to this beautiful place where you're teaching people, you know, to let them know that it's there for we all have it. It's not something that some people have or some people don't, right? We all have access to it, and you're helping them access it.
Yes, exactly. And I just wanted to say, you know, just for the people out there that maybe say, well, I feel something, I did something, but that was wrong. Like I didn't do it right. And there is no wrongness. There is no wrongness. Even if you think you've made a mistake. And I say that because, so the book that I wrote was Loud, Large, Latina, Fina. Okay. And it was the real existence of my life. And I thought when I first wrote it, I wrote it in a week. When I wrote it and got it published and everything, I thought that the real existence was what people saw or what I saw in the mirror. I'm loud, I'm large, I'm Latina, you know, like la la la, you know. And then when I started having the spiritual awakening, there's a second edition, and the second edition is talking about it's really on the inside, the loudness, the largeness is that light inside of every single one of us. It's the beacon of hope, a beacon of light that wants to explode and share what it is that we have inside, not out of ego, you know, not out of a desire that, well, if I don't do this, my mama's not going to be happy, but more out of the desire that I cannot die with this music inside of me. I cannot go to the next afterlife, whatever you believe, with this stuff that's inside. And so I am super proud of you. Like, I'm so excited, you know, because I'm seeing your mastermind, what you're doing. And it's like, people need to see more of us. And when I say us, I'm not talking about Latinos. I'm not talking about man or woman. I'm talking about people that want to allow the light to shine through. And so if you're listening to this on a rerun or whatever it is, know that you already are the light. You are exactly who you have been looking for. You're looking for a sexy man or a sexy woman or a baby or a degree or whatever it is. To be honest, honey boo boo, you are that. You're what you're looking for.
I love it. I love it. And I want to recommend everybody to go on Amazon and get the book, because you know what, you recognize truth when you hear it or when you read it, right? I believe that we all know, even if we're like, there were some things before the awakening, before my awakening and everything, there were some things that people would say, and I thought I would understand it, and afterwards I was like, holy shit, I didn't really understand this. This is how it is. But I do feel like inside my true self that was always there. I just didn't know how to connect, right? I wasn't letting it connect, and my true self did understand it. It did know that it was truth, right? And I think, like, sometimes even if we're not, and I was not in any like spiritual, I wasn't into spirituality or anything. If you told me I would have a podcast on spirituality a couple of years ago, I'd be like, you are freaking crazy, right? It was not something that I really talked about that much, and I did believe in, like, the universe and everything, and, you know, I meditated, so I had been able to kind of like And I thought that I had been able to clear my mind in my meditations for so many years until I actually had the awakening. But I feel like we all have that true self, that oneness, that consciousness that recognizes itself through us, right? And even if we're not connected to it, we recognize truth when we hear it. And so that book was written by Yamile, who is talking truth. So I recommend everybody go get it. It really is it's amazing. But I'm interested to hear how your spiritual awakening happened, or your process, because I know that we interlinked in the process, and I remember watching your videos and going through it, and you actually put something in my journey in perspective, because I'm not a woman. I've never given birth, right? And you were explaining like, those smells that are, me smell like everything, the smells and the colors, like, that's how you felt. You felt like you were pregnant. So like, can you walk us through your spiritual awakening, like your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I've had 3 children. So if any woman is out there and have had children, like the smells are heightened. I was nauseous. I was physically sick. I mean, I thought I had the flu or I had something like that. But it was even deeper than the physical stuff. It was the stuff up here. It was the things that I was telling myself. I'm like, oh my God, you're 42 years old and you're pregnant. Like now again, like we're gonna start all over. It was the things that I was beating myself up for feeling those things, right? It was even as I was awakening. And I feel like even though there was the awakening process of several months of pain and agony, I feel like I'm continually awakening. I feel like every day I'm learning from my daughters or my husband or myself. I'm like, be kind, be gentle. It's okay. It's okay when you fuck up. And when you fuck up, notice, okay, what did we need to learn about that? And so one of the things that I'm certified in, which anybody could be certified in this, is Ho'oponopono. And so the Ho'oponopono prayer has the 4 lines: I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, and thank you. And during the awakening is when I found the certification. And when I learned about it, I learned that the reason you say I'm sorry, it's not to let go of somebody who has harmed you or an idea or a thought that has done you wrong, but it's to dissipate the judgment of it, because we're always judging. I don't care who you are. If we're out in the street and we see somebody with a short skirt, we're like, oh my God, she's a hoochie, or you know what I'm saying? Like, we're always thinking that we could judge. And in reality, the minute we put judgment on something or someone or an experience, that judgment is the mirror image of how my heart is right now. So rather than judging something, what I realized is I had to let it flow like water in a stream, and it goes over rocks. It doesn't say, oh my God, you're in my way, rock. It just goes over it. And so I realized that I was called so many times loud and large and fat and a bull in a China store. I don't know if you've ever been called that, but a bull in a China store. So if you know what a bull is,
yeah,
and you go into China, so China is a beautiful place.
I get it. Yeah, yeah, it's the China. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a bull in a China shop. And so what I realized is that even though that was their judgment on what was I doing, it was me trying to figure out where I belonged. Because I don't know if you felt like it, but I never felt like I belonged. I'm almost 6 feet tall. I am bigger than other Latinas who look like Shakira. My hips lie. They lie on the floor. They lie on the bed, And so I never felt like I was Latina. I never felt like I was white. I never felt like I was nothing. I felt like, who am I? And then I realized I am. I am not Yamile. I am not a woman. I am not Latina. I am bigger than that. And all I have to do is allow that you're okay, honey boo boo. You're okay exactly where you're at. And so that's been my journey, my transition, and my continual awakening of like, oh my God. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I get to do this, and even better. And so it's been an exciting trip.
I love it. I love how, and you know, this is one of the big truths, right, that we have. And it's, there's two things I really want to talk about what you just said. It was, one is knowing that, you know, we speak about, and I usually speak about my spiritual awakening experience, like that experience, right? But it doesn't stop. It's not just one thing. Like, it happens continually every moment, right? When we're able to be in that present moment, everything is just so much. And it's not that we're always able to do that, like you said, right? It's like, I don't care who you are. It's like, there's going to be judgment, or there's going to be fuck ups, or there's going to be, you know, moments where you're in your head and you're not in your heart, right? And it's, but when we're able to get to that point again, that, you know, we just let everything flow, energy flow, that awakening, you know, there's like continuing awakening. It's like, I love something that Eckhart Tolle talked about. It's like mini meditations. I love doing that during the day. I do that all the time. It's like, yeah, because especially like if I sense like I'm not, like my energy is not flow, right? Or I'm sensing like a, wait, I have to do this, or I'm late for this, and it just, we have to kind of like stop and breathe and do those kind of like mini meditations to be able to get back into that flow, right? And so I love how you said that. It's not just one thing. It's just allowing our, and it's not something that we do. I feel like when that awakening happens, it happens to us. It's not something that like we can take. We just allow it to happen, right? It's just we're able to allow it, and I feel like that's that, you know, that consciousness is kind of like experiencing itself through us. So I love that about. I never really looked that much into hope. I can never say the word hoponopono, right?
Hoponopono.
Hoponopono.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I love that. Well, how you just described that. And the other thing was that you talked about. You know, it was about that judgment, not, you know, understanding that we are. That realization that you had that we are, and it's sometimes, I don't know about you, but you know, because I've been all my life in sales and marketing and you know, like setting goals or doing this and that, it's always been like, I am, you know, like there are a lot of these and I'm not judging or saying anything of this is wrong, like, I am a badass, right? So you just affirmations, I'm a badass, or I am this, and I am that, and I am creative, and I am, you know, persistent, and I am, and everybody's like, know who you are, and I am this, and I am that. We are, right? That's realization when it's like, I am not Rafael, I'm not Yamile, right? I'm not Latino, I'm not Latina, right? I'm not whatever we put after that I am. I feel like it's excessive, right? It's not. I feel like anything that goes after the I am isn't real.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we obviously live in this world where we perceive things this way. So, one of the things I love that you're doing is helping people be and do at the same time, because that's something that's difficult to be able to do, right? Be and do, because I mean, I spent some months where I couldn't do anything because I was just being, right?
Yeah. And it's so that's who we work with. So we work with small little businesses, little companies. My dream would be to go into like AT&T, Verizon, and be able to bring that type of awareness to them, because being and doing, so you still have to go in, you still have to clock in, you still have to do that. But a lot of times people get caught up and then they start getting depressed about, oh, I got to do this again. So what we do is we go in and we use these techniques, different techniques, depending on the client. And so we help them align back to their own I amness, their own power. So even if they're sitting on the phone, or if they're fighting crime or whatever it is that they're doing, that they can remember who they are, the I amness that you're talking about. And then everything is joy. It really is. Count it all joy. And so when you said about being in your head and things like that, it reminded me of the song of Cranberries. In your head, in your head, zombies, zombies. And I say all that because, you know, when we're in our heads, right, we forget that we are so powerful. And when they're talking about it, the song is actually zombie, right? A zombie is dead. A zombie is just trying to get flesh and blood. But when we can empower ourselves and know, Rafael, you're fucking awesome. The people who are watching this, hearing this, are amazing exactly where they're at. But you don't know me, I've been abused, or you don't know me, who I am. I've been this, or I'm a single mother, or whatever. Oh my God, you are a freaking beast. You don't have to fight against flesh and blood anymore, because it is all about the withinness, the nowness. The time is now to rise up and to claim that person who you are here now, rather than in your head.
I love that. Oh my God, I love that. You can just, I don't know about you guys who are watching this, but you can just, or whenever you watch it, right? Because it's always going to be in the now, in the present moment, whenever you watch it. But you can just feel your energy. I can just feel your energy. It's just feeling like when you're talking about it, because it feels like you know, you go back to it, right? You feel it, and it's the knowing what you just said right now. It's the knowing that I feel like, you know, you clicked on something super important, which is, if anybody's listening and thinking, you know, but you don't know me, you don't know, like, I've been through this, or I'm going through this, or I'm going through that. There is this one thing inside of all of us, which is the same thing, and it's the only true thing, right? And whether we see it or feel it or not, it's there, right? And that is, like you said, I mean, you are awesome. You are amazing wherever you are in your life, or wherever you are, right? And whatever you're doing, or whatever you're not doing. But it's just, you can say it, like you can say it because you know it, right? You know that I amness that you're talking about. I love it. I love it. And whoever is listening, if there's anybody listening that is going through that, there is something, but it's like you say, like you say in your book, it's like it's within, right?
Exactly.
And it's amazing have you had any I guess, like, when you were saying that you're talking about, it reminded me when you were talking about, like, being, like you said, loud Latina, and right, but you thought on the outside, but it was how it was on the inside, right? And it's so much bigger. What's on the inside, what our true selves, our conscience, it's just so much bigger than the outside world that we perceive, right? It's just so deep. It's deeper, I guess, is what the word, not bigger, it's deeper, right? It's
because you're right. It is deeper. It is bigger, because when we say, oh, Yamile is Latina, it just put me in a box. But the universe is expansive, right? Oh, Rafael is a man. Okay, he's in a box. But it is expansive, what's inside of you, what we have to offer to the world. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about just everything. Like, I'm not afraid of death anymore. I used to always be afraid of scary movies and death. And now I'm like, I no longer fear it, because I am here now. I am here now. You are here now. So let's enjoy it now, right?
Yep.
And really let the dead bury the dead. And when I say that, I know that sounds strong, but it's like, be alive so that we could know and cherish this moment.
That's beautiful. I love that. And it's like, you know, it's funny that you say that. It's and now, through this COVID situation and in this pandemic, right? Uh, people people's heads go to, what if I get this virus? What if I die? What if this? What if that? And that fear and that and that anxiety that comes with that fear. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not judging when that's happened. I'm not saying that's wrong. But when you go inside, you realize that your true self, that oneness, that oneness, that I amness, right? That there's no way that doesn't die, right? You can't die. Your inner self, you can't die. Right? That consciousness. So you're not afraid of it anymore, right? That it's not something that can happen, right?
Yes.
I mean, your blood and flesh can die, right? And obviously, and there's, it's, and like somebody else that I had on the podcast was saying, and it sucks for the family that that they leave behind, and that grief and all that, but you can't die. Like your true self doesn't die, right? Which is beautiful. I feel that's when you're saying you're not scared of death anymore. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I say we do these things again.
Yeah, no, I do definitely, and I'm gonna start doing these in Spanish too. I know that we are in that little box, that Latino box, right, or whatever. Yes. But there are a lot of people that don't understand English, that might be going through it, or that I feel like might need to hear this. So I would love to have you back in Spanish.
Absolutely. Well. And it's so funny about the box, because I feel like it's my sazon. It's our seasoning, right? And if we have been blessed in this lifetime with the seasoning that you're a man and I'm a woman and we're Latinos and we're blessed to speak another language, why would we not share this with the language that we were, born with or learned or whatever? So I would be honored to do this in Spanish with you.
I would love that. I would love that. And I want to respect your time, right? So I want to make sure that I know that this. I mean, I think we can have a conversation for days.
Yes, we can. Yes.
One of the things I just like a little bit before we go. I guess the work. I just want to kind of like acknowledge you and let you know that I am so, like we've been talking about this whole conversation, when you're in flow, like, when things are happening, things that happen are happening because of that connection, right? Or because we're all one, that oneness, or all of that. I just want to let you know that you've been that with to me as well, right? In this whole process, your videos. I love your your videos, right? And the work that you do, and I can definitely sense and recognize the truth in it, and that it comes from the heart, and that it's real, right? And I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Rafael. It's and whoever's on here, like Rafael and I haven't physically met. Like, he actually kind of looks like my husband. I want to call my husband, Papi, come here. he kind of looks like my husband, but we've not physically met. But you don't have to physically meet someone to know that the withinness is connecting us, right? And so this is my husband, my Casey.
I like your haircut.
Yeah.
We're the lucky ones now that don't have the haircut problem, right?
That's right. That's right.
I'm a barber now, so.
Yeah. It was really nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
Yeah, and actually, and now that I have you on, I want to let you guys know too. I mean, I love the work that you do together, right? And it's that you can tell, that support that you guys have, right? And you can see it, right? And so, yeah. I want to
thank you so much, Rafael.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And guys, whoever's out there right now, like reach out to someone. Even if it was just one video or one word, reach out to each other so that we can collectively affirm and love on each other. So Rafael, thank you so much. Like when you told me about the group, I was like, mira ¿quién se cree? I was so excited. I was like, this boy ain't playing. He's not playing. So,
well, I appreciate you being on. I appreciate you coming on, and yeah, definitely, thank you. And I'm excited to have you back on again. And English or Spanish, these conversations are real. So I love it.
Absolutely. Well, Rafael, take care. Thank you so much. Be blessed. We're so excited that you're flying, bro. You're flying.
Well, thank you. I really don't feel like I can take credit though. Honestly, I just think it's like what we're talking about, just being it's just kind of like creating itself, just allowing it to create itself, and it's actually been part of that journey, because I would never, I've always been the guy that doesn't talk about all this stuff, right? It's at least about spirituality and putting it out there. It'd be like it's something that I have to get myself into flow for it to be able to happen, because if not, my head would just go, no, don't do that. So I honestly don't even feel like I can take credit for it. It's just allowing it. So I really appreciate it, though. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yay.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
You too.
You too.
Good night. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.